for having this session. And Shivani, thanks for the context. Uh, I mean, I'm sure the session is structured in a way that we will delve deeper into what the regulation is going to look like and what the judicial precedents have set on what can be a game of skill, what can be a game of chance, and what is the thin line of difference between a game of skill and game of chance. To start off with, and we've had this discussion at several points in time in different forums. It's that when the preponderance of a skill, a skill versus a game of chance, is when the outcome is based in the hands of the player beyond and is in their control, it's a game of skill. If it is not within their control, it's a game of chance. And that's been the premise, largely speaking. I thought it would be interesting for the session here today to discuss a little bit more on the technicalities of what entails a game of skill. What kind of characteristics of a particular game should one look at when they're trying to assess whether it's a particular game of skill? And Eugene Nagoski had an interesting paper where he has come up with these components which sort of break down what should be a good gaming component. How do you define or assess a particular player in seeing whether they are able to actually play a game well and have control over the outcome of the game? And he divides it into a bunch of segments. And the first one is on sensory motor control, which is, your hand and eye coordination, or it is balance, reaction, or rhythm, or even, mouse and key, the way you hold a mouse and keyboard and you play with it. The second segment that they divided is in cognition, which is strategic planning, memory retention, problem solving, management of how a player is playing a particular game. If he is running into a particular issue, how does he break it down? Is there a particular strategy starting to play the game with such that he's able to actually consistently have uniform performance toward the end of the game? The third item that they look at is social competence, which is largely, you look at it as interaction, or you look at it as engagement or empathy towards your other co-players, or generally just working in a team, so mutual support for your other team players in the game. The other item that the paper looks at is personal competence, where it's basically awareness of yourself and self-critique, self-observation. At which point do I get tired? Which point do I actually pick up the pace better? Which part of the game is really efficient that I'm really good at? So can I get there faster and then get an advantage over the other players for myself? And the other item that was very interesting to me, and this is, to the earlier point that Aruna ma'am made about bridging the digital divide, is about media literacy, where he says that if the player has the understanding of the media design, or has media knowledge, or has, is able to regulate or use the device better, or, actively communicate or set up the interface better, he's able to play better. For instance, and we can take an example of, say, a Pokemon Go. If the player knows how his mobile phone is playing well, and the way he has to throw the phone, throw the ball at the Pokemon to be able to catch it. If he knows his device well, if he knows the interface of the device well, if he knows how modern or not modern his phone is, he'll be able to catch the Pokeball faster. So things like these constitute what could be a game of skill versus a game of chance. And I thought that will be useful for us to also discuss further on this table today, because we've talked about what all courts have said, which is collectively that, games which have an element of skill, be it rummy, be it poker, or any kinds of fantasy sports, have an element of skill, and therefore they don't amount to gambling or betting, but amount to a game of skill with certain elements of wagering in it. But what does that essentially entail in small elements, which will differ for each game, but these certain aspects of it would be useful for us to, I thought, discuss. So that's all I had to say.
How about you?